As we grow our teams, it's inevitable that we need to hire and get good at hiring, but many of us make a lot of the same mistakes over and over again. In my recent interview with Paula Maidens, she shared how to have a really great hiring and onboarding experience. I wanted to take this one clip and share it with you where she talked about the most common mistakes to avoid and how to avoid them. I know this is going to help you as you go to hire your next team member. But what are some of the bigger mistakes in the hiring process? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize the massive cost of making the wrong hire. And they're often really fast to hire and slow to fire, where I think a lot of people would say we want to be slow to hire. We want to be really methodical in our hiring process because the cost of onboarding, the cost of the hiring process, the cost of turnover is significant. In fact, it's one of the largest expenses for many companies. So what would you say we need to be on the lookout for? What are the mistakes that you see people make? Like we were talking about earlier, only hiring from your list, only hiring from your community. What are those mistakes that you see and how do we avoid them in that hiring process?
I think the biggest mistake, which we did talk about before we jumped on, was hiring friends, or as I started to say before, hiring somebody that's referred to you. So I think that's definitely really common. And what's wrong about that, or doesn't always serve you, is that you're almost outsourcing your power to the fact that you've been a friend or you have a friendship, or the fact that somebody has been successful working for somebody else. And what we want to do is we really want to bring that power back into ourselves and give ourselves the ability to make a really great, confident decision for ourselves so that then a month down the track, if someone's made a little mistake or something like that, we don't have what I call the hiring wobbles and want to sort of, fire them fast. We actually go, oh no, well, I made this great decision. So I'm going to lean into this mistake and get curious and work out, well, what's going wrong here? So I think the first mistake is hiring somebody with a perceived belief that this person is safe because and the trust is automatically there, and therefore the performance will be there because they're either a referral or a friend. And I think the other really big thing that goes wrong in most hiring processes is the amount of assumptions that are brought to the table. And as you started to speak about, everybody you hire into your business has previous life experience, has previous work experience, etc. And all of those previous experiences has shaped the bias that they're bringing to the table and to your role. And in the same way, you've got a bunch of bias. You've got all these assumptions, which are fueling assumptions that you'll make. So your role when you're hiring someone and your role at interview is to strip away those assumptions and get to the heart of what can this person do? How do they like to do it? And is that a match for what I'm looking for? So the way you strip away assumptions is by having like a robust interview process that includes testing, and it includes like talking about scenarios and examples and all that sort of thing. So let me share with you a story. Like way back when, my career was, I used to be an investment banker and I used to work here in Australia in a bank, and I used to use Excel every day. And I moved over to London, like most Australians do, for a couple of years. And I was going for a job at a very big bank. And they said to me, tell me about your Excel skills. And I was like, yeah, they're pretty good. And they said, how would you rank yourself, beginners, intermediate, or advanced? And I thought about it and I thought, well, I'm pretty fast at it. I use it every day. And I was like, yeah, advanced. And they're like, cool. And they gave me the job. And on the first day, they sat me down in front of an Excel spreadsheet, which they use, which had 40 tabs, 40. And the role they wanted me to do was to debug the VB formula when it broke for these like crazy complicated like scenarios that they were running through these Excel spreadsheets. And I didn't know how to do that. Now you can imagine it'd be really easy for them to think, but she lied. She said she's advanced. But actually, in that interview, if they had said to me, tell me the most difficult thing or complicated thing you can do in Excel, I probably would have said like equals sum, or I can make it pink, or some really basic thing. And they would have gone, oh, to us, advanced is X. And what's really interesting is I actually switched into being a recruiter at that stage, started recruiting bankers, and went and that person became my client. And I sat down with them and said, guys, you need to do a test here. You need to put people in front of an Excel spreadsheet, one of your spreadsheets, and get them to do the things and show you their skills. Because that is the only way you're going to strip away that skill assumption that we both made. I thought I was advanced based on my previous experience. I wasn't lying. I answered honestly, like naively, because, I was the fastest person in the room here in Australia in my job, but actually relative to what you needed, I was only a beginner. So that was a long time ago, but actually that also made me realize how much I don't like Excel spreadsheets, that job. But if we bring that back to our roles, it's like, what is the most complicated thing we might need someone to do? Is it like setting up tagging, an active campaign? Is it like setting up email automations? Like, what is something that you need someone to do? And what is a skill you're hiring in? And then ask them, tell me about a really complicated automation you've set up. Tell me about a complicated situation that you've faced in a community. Tell me about a member challenge that you faced that was really difficult to navigate. What did you learn from it? And the person might respond with something like, oh, it might even be higher than that. It might be like, tell me about your most stressful day. Tell me about the most difficult day you've had as community manager. And if the person responds with, well, there was once, 20 posts that I had to answer and I had to go through and get them all done all day, then you can be thinking, wow, our group has volume of X, and you get to bring them into your reality and start to compare because they're answering based on their experience with all their assumptions. And then you get to bring them into your reality and say, okay, so if you were faced with this here, how would you handle it? So what's the most complicated thing you've handled? Okay, so how would you handle this situation? And then you present them a situation. And that's how we sort of get to the heart and strip away some of those assumptions. And the really great thing is that it also helps the other person to know what it's going to be like in the role and to show you what they need to learn and what they like doing with their responses.